I'm a contemporary artist with a bit of an unexpected background. I was in my 20s before I ever went to an art museum. I grew up in the middle of nowhere on a dirt road in rural Arkansas, an hour from the nearest movie theater. And I think it was a great place to grow up as an artist because I grew up around quirky, colorful characters who were great at making with their hands. And my childhood is more hick than I could ever possibly relate to you, and also more intellectual than you would ever expect. For instance, me and my sister, when we were little, we would compete to see who could eat the most squirrel brains. And on the other side of that, though, we were big readers in our house, and if the TV was on, we were watching a documentary. And my dad is the most voracious reader I know. He can read a novel or two a day, but when I was little, I remember he would kill flies in our house with my BB gun. And what was so amazing to me about that, well, he would be in his recliner, would holler for me to fetch the BB gun, and I'd go get it. And what was amazing to me wasn't, well, it was pretty kick-ass. He was killing a fly in the house with a gun. But what was so amazing to me was that he knew just enough how to pump it, and he could shoot it for, like 2 rooms away and not damage what was on because he knew how to pump it just enough to kill the fly and not damage what it was landed on. So I should talk about art. Or we'll be here all day with my childhood stories. I love contemporary art, but I'm often really frustrated with the contemporary art world and the contemporary art scene. A few years ago, I spent months in Europe to see the major international art exhibitions that have the pulse of what is supposed to be going on in the art world. And I was struck by going to so many one after the other, kind of with some clarity of what it was that I was longing for. And I was longing for several things that I wasn't getting or not getting enough of. But 2 of the main things. One of it, I was longing for more work that was appealing to a broad public, that was accessible. And the second thing that I was longing for was more exquisite craftsmanship and technique. So I started thinking and listing what all it was that I thought would make a perfect biennial. So I decided I'm going to start my own biennial. I'm going to organize it and direct it and get it going in the world. So I thought, okay, I have to have some criteria of how to choose work. So amongst all the criteria I have, there's kind of 2 main things. One of them I call my Mimos test. And what that is I imagine explaining a work of art to my grandmother in 5 minutes. And if I can't explain it in 5 minutes, then it's too obtuse or esoteric, and it hasn't been refined enough yet. It needs to be worked on until it can speak fluently. And then my other second set of rules, I hate to say rules because it's art, or my criteria would be the 3 H's, which is head, heart, and hand. And great art would have head, it would have interesting intellectual ideas and concepts. It would have heart in that it would have passion and heart and soul. And it would have hand in that it would be greatly crafted. So I started thinking about, okay, how am I going to do this biennial? How am I going to travel the world and find these artists? And then I realized one day, there's an easier solution to this. I'm just going to make the whole thing myself. And so this is what I did. I thought, okay, a biennial needs artists. I'm going to do an international biennial. I need artists from all around the world. So what I did was I invented 100 artists from around the world. I figured out their bios, their passions in life, and their art styles, and I started making their work. And so I thought, oh, this is this kind of project that I can spend my whole life doing. So I decided I'm going to make this a real biennial. It's going to be 2 years of studio work. And I'm going to create this in 2 years. And I have. So I should start to talk about these guys. Well, the range is quite a bit. And I'm such a technician, so I love this project, getting to play with all the techniques. So, for example, in realist paintings ranges from like this, which is kind of old master style, to really realistic still life, to this type of painting where I'm painting with a single hair. And then at the other end, there's performance and short films and indoor installations like this indoor installation and this one, and outdoor installations like this one, and This one, and I should mention, I'm making all these things. This isn't photoshopped. I'm like under the river with those fish. So now let me introduce some of my fictional artists to you. This is Nell Rimmel. Nell is interested in agricultural processes, and her work is based in these practices. This piece, which is called Flipped Earth, she was interested in taking the sky and using it to cleanse barren ground. And by taking giant mirrors... And here she's taking giant mirrors and pulling them into the dirt. And this is 22 feet long, and what I loved about her work is when I would walk around it and look down into the sky, looking down to watch the sky, and it unfolded in a new way. And probably the best part of this piece is at dusk and dawn, when like the twilight wedge is fallen and the ground's dark, but there's still the light above, right above, and so you're standing there and everything else is dark, but there's this portal that you want to jump in. And this piece was great. This is in my parents' backyard in Arkansas, and I love to dig a hole, so this piece was great fun because it was 2 days of digging in soft dirt. The next artist is Kay Overstreet, and she's interested in ephemerality and transience. And in her most recent project, it's called Weather I Made, and she's making weather on her body's scale. And this piece is frost, and what she did was she went out on a cold, dry night and breathed back and forth on the lawn to leave her life's mark, the mark of her breath. And so this is 5 foot 5 inches of frost that she left behind. The sun rises and it melts away. And that was played by my mom. So the next artist, this is a group of Japanese artists, a collective of Japanese artists in Tokyo, and they were interested in developing a new alternative art space, and they needed funding for it, so they decided to come up with some interesting fundraising projects. One of these is scratch-off masterpieces. And so what they're doing, each of these artists on a 9 by 7 inch card, which they sell for $10, they drew original works of art, and you buy one and maybe you get a real piece and maybe not. Well, this has sparked a craze in Japan because everyone's wanting a masterpiece. And the ones that are most sought after are the ones that are only barely scratched off. And all these works, in some ways, talk about luck or fate or chance. Those first two are portraits of mega jackpot winners years before.